The Climate Change Bill 2022. What is it and what do you need to know?
Do you have a little time for saving the planet?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
But you have time to hide in a bush?
It's important to me, so I make the time.
Pardon me, do you want clean air?
We're not asking for anything. Just handing out information. That's not a risk I'm willing to take.
Sorry, babe. I'm sure we can trick somebody into taking a flyer.
We're not trying to trick anybody, Jeff.
Really?
All I am trying to do is make the world a better place.
Beep, beep, backing up, backing up. Hey, you don't own the roads.
Roger?
Dr. Sonny Sunderson. If you or anyone you know is interested in going solar, fill one of these out and leave it in that dead ficus tree on 18th Street. I won't let the USPS on my property because I don't engage with any business that produces greenhouse gases. I use no fossil fuels.
Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Here we go through the bullshit and give you the facts. Today we're going to talk about the recently introduced climate bill. So, what exactly is it? Introduced with the Climate Change Consequential Amendments Bill 2022, the bill outlines Australia's greenhouse gas emissions reduction targets of a 43% reduction from 2005 levels by 2030 and net zero by 2050, requires the Minister to prepare and table an annual climate change statement, requires the Climate Change Authority to give the Minister advice in relation to the annual statement and future greenhouse gas emissions reduction targets, and provides a periodic review of the operation of the Act. Now let's look at a media release from August last year. The Albanese government's Climate Change Bill 2022 has passed the House of Representatives today. The bill will enshrine into law an emissions reduction target of 43% from 2005 levels by 2030 and net zero emissions by 2050. It locks in 43% as Australia's target to reduce emissions and ensures a whole-of-government approach to drive towards the target. It ensures accountability through an annual update to Parliament by the Climate Change Minister on the progress being made towards the target, and empowers the Climate Change Authority to provide advice to government on future targets. This bill records the government's ambition to take the country forward on climate action, and it reflects our determination to bring people with us, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said. The bill will now proceed to the Senate to be debated in the upcoming sitting weeks. So, we have a bill that's being introduced into law to achieve net zero by 2050, with a 43% reduction by 2030, which in theory means that if you aren't reducing your emissions in whatever way they define, you'll be breaking the law, and therefore could be punished or restricted for it. An example of this could be limits on petrol, which if you have a look overseas, Sri Lanka gave it a go. They were using QR codes to restrict the public from purchasing too much. Take a look. Another example could be restricting how much electricity you use. Go check the link in the description to find out how. Most would say it's all about the carbon. However, that isn't the case, so let's have a look at what carbon neutral is. Businesses often speak about becoming carbon neutral. This means they're taking steps to remove the equivalent amount of CO2 to what's emitted through activities across their supply chains by investing in carbon sinks that absorb CO2. Carbon sinks such as forests or our oceans absorb and store more carbon from the atmosphere than they emit. Investment into their health is called offsetting and allows companies to operate in good conscience, knowing their emissions are balanced out. Many companies begin this process by cutting down their CO2 emissions as much as possible first before investing in highly visible offset programs. However, it's not just businesses that can strive for carbon neutrality. We can all make contributions as individuals. Making more sustainable lifestyle choices can help reduce our carbon footprints and limit our overall environmental impact. This could mean using public transport over a personal vehicle, limiting food waste, recycling packaging and old clothes, and monitoring the carbon intensity of your home's power usage. So, what about net zero? Net zero is similar in principle to carbon neutrality, but it is expanded in scale. To achieve net zero means to go beyond the removal of just carbon emissions. Net zero refers to all greenhouse gases being emitted into the atmosphere, such as methane, nitrous oxide, and other hydrofluorocarbons. As with carbon neutrality, to reach net zero, the greenhouse gases emitted into the atmosphere must be equivalent to the greenhouse gases being removed from the atmosphere. Action to reach net zero is happening on a global scale, but requires the collaboration of world governments, as well as private and third sectors. Research has shown that the carbon neutrality is good for business in the long run. Achieving it not only allows businesses to save on costs through better operational efficiencies and tax reductions, but it also helps protect the natural environment for all stakeholders necessary for it to succeed. It's all about getting the balance right, is what they say. As long as you're pulling as many emissions out of the air as you're producing, you're at net zero. So if you have the money to afford the technology or the farmland to do so, you'll be fine. But for your everyday person, expect shortages of up to 43% on power, fuel and food, especially if we're unable to implement some of these technologies in time. For example, let's say they shut down the coal plants today, but for some reason the wind turbines won't be ready for another 2 weeks. What would you do? Are you prepared? That's the story. Let me know what you think in the comments. Help the algorithm out and press those buttons. But most importantly, stay happy, stay healthy, stay free.